Are you hungry? The roast beef is ours, so we won't give any to you, Mom. While I was preparing Christmas dishes in the kitchen, my eldest son, James, blurted that out. As he casually opened the fridge, he stowed away the paper-wrapped package he had brought. Roast beef? I bought it as a snack for the drinks. But Mom, you're not allowed to touch it. His mocking tone made me snap. It's not that I desperately wanted to eat the roast beef. It was James's spitefulness in telling me not to eat it that infuriated me. Why am I even preparing Christmas dishes while being treated like this? How dare you speak to me that way? I'm not your servant, you know. But if you don't take care of me and Emily, Dad will get upset. You won't even take care of your son and daughter-in-law when they come home for a visit, will you? James's words made me bristle with anger again. Didn't I just say I'm not your servant? I have a home to return to as well. Yes, I'm going back to my hometown. Your hometown? It's just Aunt Michelle living there alone, right? Spending Christmas with just elderly sisters, how creepy. With that, James spat out and quickly left the kitchen. Heading back to the dining room where my husband and his wife, Emily, were. I'm so glad our kitchen is separate from the dining area. Because it means I don't have to see the three of them ignoring me and enjoying their drinks. Why do I have to cook for James and Emily only to be treated like this? It's infuriating. How can I unleash this anger on James and Emily? If possible, I'd like to mix a little poison into the Christmas dishes and their drinks. Wait. The Christmas dishes. And the drinks. The idea of adding a little poison. Suddenly, an idea crossed my mind. Maybe I could give my son and his wife a shock. I'm Catherine, a 62-year-old housewife. I work part-time 3 days a week at a printing company. My husband, George, is also still working post-retirement, so we're both still working. When our only son, James, got married, my husband was overjoyed. Because his daughter-in-law, Emily, was a heavy drinker. He's always so happy to have a daughter who can drink all night long, lining up bottles of liquor in anticipation of her visits. This Christmas too, he was in a good mood since morning, having ordered wine and beer. But ever since James brought Emily home for the first time, I've disliked her. To be honest, it's not easy to find a girl willing to marry an only son. Emily said that to me while we were having tea on the couch. She started talking when my husband and James left the room. So, I hope you understand that now that I'm your daughter-in-law. What do you mean? It means if you let me go, you might never find another daughter-in-law. It took me a moment to grasp the meaning of her words. Basically, Emily was saying that she married James, and I should appreciate her for it. I'm planning to take good care of you too, you know. Of course, you should. As you get older and need help, you'll have to rely on us, right? Emily looked down on me with disdainful eyes. So, while you're healthy, please devote yourself to us. That's what give and take is all about, isn't it? You don't have to speak to me that way. It's exactly that attitude I'm talking about. Haven't you ever heard the saying, obey your children as you age? What on earth is wrong with this kid? Just so you know, James is crazy about me. Even if you say bad things about me or complain, he won't believe you. As I was at a loss for words, my husband and James returned to the living room. Emily, did you have a good talk with Mom?
Yeah.
Your mom said she'll be kind to us. Emily's expression and tone of voice changed completely. A beaming smile and a coquettish voice. With this act, she could probably easily manipulate James. Disturbed, I later talked to my husband about it. Well, Emily does have a point. But my husband, excited about his drinking daughter-in-law, didn't listen to me at all. It's a fact that we'll have to rely on James and Emily in our old age, and it's rare for young women to want to marry an only son. But she was so unpleasant in her wording. Aren't you just jealous of Emily, thinking she's stealing James from you? It's time you let go of your child. In the end, my feelings were ignored, and James and Emily had their wedding. I can't forget the look Emily gave me as she walked down the aisle. It's time to start treating me like a princess. I could read that thought in her disdainful gaze. Every Easter, summer holiday, and Christmas, my eldest son and his wife visit. Each time, my husband asks me to prepare special meals. Make something delicious so we can enjoy our drinks. Afraid to upset my usually quiet husband, I began to prepare elaborate welcome meals. Emily apparently mistook me for a maid. "Catherine, I want to change the flavor of the pasta. Could you grate some cheese for me?" "We don't have any cheese right now." Then can you go buy some?" "Catherine, can you buy some for her? Emily's keeping you company with the drinks. My husband always spoils his daughter-in-law. And the drinking trio, including James, eat a lot." There's still food left, I'll take it." Even what I set aside for myself, James would take from the kitchen. I ended up eating toast. Every long weekend it's like this, and I've come to dread their visits. At the same time, I feel sad about feeling this way. This Christmas too, the drinking started as soon as my eldest son and his wife arrived. George, wanting to drink with Emily, had been eagerly waiting since morning. "Catherine, please take good care of us this year too. Are the Christmas dishes ready?" That was Emily's greeting when she entered the kitchen. "I'm still making them. I'd be happy if you could help. I can't enter someone else's kitchen." She sits and eats all she wants in someone else's home, but I held back from saying that. Emily, unconcerned with my reaction, quickly went back to George. Then I heard my husband's voice from the dining room. "Hey, Catherine. Bring the wine and glasses." He was referring to the cheap glass flask and cups we won in a supermarket raffle at the end of the year. He said they were perfect for drinking during the Christmas since the set included 3 cups. Does this mean I was never included in their gathering from the start? As I carried the tray with the flask and cups to the dining room, I saw several bottles of alcohol and mixed nuts on the table. The snacks they brought to tide them over until my cooking was done must have been from my eldest son and his wife. "Mom, bring the roast beef we talked about earlier too," James said, without even looking at me. "Like I said earlier, that's ours. Don't sneak any bites." Hearing those words, something inside me snapped. He's really taking me for granted. That's right. "Catherine, you know about the fancy plum wine I bought, right? Bring that too, and pour it into the wine decanter." This added command from my husband rubbed me the wrong way. I just couldn't take it anymore. Back in the kitchen, I stared at the brown liquid I had cooled in a small bowl. "Are you hungry? The roast beef is ours, so don't give any to Mom." When James said this to me earlier, I came up with a plan and prepared this liquid. Touching the bowl, it was completely cooled. I took James's package from the fridge and unwrapped it. What appeared was unmistakably high-quality roast beef. When I tried a slice, it melted in my mouth, delicious. You'll see. I submerged all the roast beef in the brown liquid. I let it soak for a few minutes to ensure the liquid penetrated each slice, then took them out and dabbed them dry with kitchen paper. I didn't feel like tasting it, but it should be fine. After plating the roast beef, I took out the expensive plum wine my husband bought from the fridge and poured about half into the decanter. A rich aroma rose immediately. A clearly high-quality scent, but I was going to ruin this wine too. I opened the cupboard and took out a 750 milliliters black bottle. Holding it firmly with both hands, I poured the clear liquid from the bottle into the decanter, mixing it with the plum wine. The 3 drinkers in the dining room had no idea about this bottle's existence. They deserved to be ruined. Ruining my eldest son and his wife's visit might seem petty to others. But I had to do this to calm my irritation. "I won't let you enjoy the Christmas dishes either." I took out a container and packed exactly half of the Christmas dishes. Up until now, the drinkers ate everything I made, but not this year. I'll take it to my sister's place and enjoy it properly. Then, I'll also enjoy the wine chilled in the fridge. Next, I started tampering with the food for James, Emily, and my husband. I dripped the brown liquid onto the prawn cocktails and mixed it into the stuffing. I spread Tabasco on the roast turkey before serving. If the drinkers notice a strange taste, that'll be a success. Carrying the decanter and glasses to the dining table, the 3 were already happily tipsy. It seems they were drinking wine. Wow, is this the fancy plum wine? Such a beautiful gold color. "Mom, could you pour me some plum wine?" Emily quickly asked me, then tipped back her cup. "Why don't you do it yourself? Come on, do it for her." Annoyed by my husband's words, I obediently lifted the decanter and filled the 3 glasses to the brim with plum wine. "Let them drink their fill. drink, and set my plan of revenge in motion. Hey, Mom, you're pouring too much. It's fine, it's a fancy plum wine.
Mmm.
Smells amazing. Emily smiled happily and carefully brought the glass to her lips to savor the plum wine. Wow, this is so delicious. True, you can tell it's expensive by the taste. We three can finish this off in no time. We three. As if I don't even exist. Shaking my head, I returned to the kitchen and then brought the plate of roast beef to the table. Here it comes. This is from a famous local butcher shop. James boasted, hurriedly taking a bite of the roast beef. Then, he grimaced. What's this? It's bitter. Yes. Just the reaction I aimed for. Bitter roast beef? That's unusual. No, it shouldn't be. Are you sure? It's impossible for that butcher shop to make a mistake. Emily said this as she reached for a piece of roast beef. Indeed, it's bitter. Maybe they used some new spices for Christmas. I preferred the previous one, but we have to eat it since it was expensive. That's right. Plus, this plum wine is really delicious. The three continued to eat the roast beef I had made bitter and started guzzling the plum wine mixed with the clear liquid like water. After a while, I looked at my husband, George, whose eyes were becoming glassy. Catherine, isn't the food ready yet? His slurred speech was proof that he was quite drunk. I decided to intensify my attack. I took the decanter back to the kitchen, added more plum wine and the clear liquid, and returned to the table. Next, I brought out the big plate of Christmas dishes and individual plates. Wow, prawn cocktail.
Yay!
Like George, James seemed quite intoxicated. Prawn cocktail? Emily, still coherent, reached out with her cutlery and took a prawn directly from the plate. Spicy. She exclaimed. Catherine, what's this? It's spicy. That can't be, I made it as usual. No, it's definitely spicy. Try it, James. Urged by Emily, James also tried the prawn. But I knew that James had always liked spicy food and wouldn't react much to something as mild as Tabasco. Well, it does seem a bit spicy, doesn't it? Right? Oh, and this stuffing is bitter too. Emily, maybe you're tasting it wrong because of the sweet plum wine. I cooked everything the usual way. Except for the brown liquid and Tabasco I added. Still, I think this year's dishes are bitter.
Ah,
Me too. Maybe you're right, Catherine, it's because of the sweet plum wine. But this plum wine is really delicious. As the unsteady George and James continued, Emily was still drinking the plum wine. Could it be that this woman is a bottomless pit when it comes to alcohol? Trying to hold back my irritation, I returned to the kitchen and started washing the pots, bowls, and other cooking utensils. George and James are affected, but not Emily? I muttered to myself while washing the dishes, and then Emily came into the kitchen. Water. I feel sick. Despite having consumed a considerable amount of alcohol, Emily looked pale. Apparently, she felt sick. I filled a cup with water and handed it to her. She gulped it down and looked at me with weak eyes. Catherine, you did something to the food, didn't you? She tried to sound threatening, but there was no force behind it. Even a child could have talked back to her in that state. Please don't say such horrible things. But it's strange, isn't it? I've never felt sick from alcohol before, and it's impossible for James to get that drunk. Just because you feel strange, why do you think I did something? That roast beef wasn't supposed to be bitter. And the prawn and the stuffing were spicy, the roast turkey was bitter. Are you suggesting I poisoned you? Poison, that would explain why I feel so terrible. Emily spoke in a fading voice, then rushed to the sink and vomited violently. Luckily, I quickly lifted the washing bowl, so the dishes were spared. Hey, if you're going to throw up, do it in the bathroom. Catherine, you definitely put something in the food. I don't know what you're talking about. I replied coldly, and Emily looked at me in shock. I've said I didn't poison you. Why would I become a criminal for you? Then why? Oh, water, please give me water. I refilled her cup, and she drank before returning to the dining room. There, George and James were passed out, face down on the table. James, George. Catherine might have poisoned the food. That's impossible.
Yeah.
Dad, and I just drank too much. Wake up, please. The poison is taking effect. Seeing the two of them like that, Emily suddenly started to cry, tears streaming down her face. Her judgment likely dulled by alcohol, she genuinely believed I had poisoned them. I never expected my actions to have such a profound effect. Catherine, please, call an ambulance. I still want to live. I told you, I didn't poison anyone. But it's strange. James and George, who are strong drinkers, are so drunk, and even I, stronger than them, feel sick. Emily, still crying, covered her mouth and headed towards the bathroom. She was surely going to vomit again. Just keep vomiting in fear of a non-existent poison. I had scared my daughter-in-law, who treated me like a maid, right from the start of the Christmas. I had gotten my husband, who was looking forward to drinking, completely drunk. And I ruined the roast beef that James was so eager to have. A feeling of triumphant satisfaction welled up inside me. I packed up the Christmas dishes I had set aside and a bottle of white wine from the fridge into an eco bag and headed to my sister's place. Arriving home, my sister, Michelle, warmly welcomed me and the Christmas dishes. We quickly rearranged the food onto plates and laid them out around the dining table. Pouring white wine into glasses, we toasted as a way of greeting Christmas. And then I shared with my sister everything that had happened back at my house. George and James passed out. But they're usually such strong drinkers. It's hard to believe they'd get that drunk from plum wine. Actually, I tampered with it a bit. You didn't really poison them, did you? Laughing, I assured my sister that it wasn't poison and began to explain. The clear liquid I had mixed with the plum wine in the kitchen was a high-alcohol spirit I won at a year-end bingo game. It's so strong that it's labeled as fire hazard. No wonder they collapsed after drinking plum wine mixed with such a potent spirit, even for heavy drinkers. Eating something that tastes strange and getting more drunk than usual, it's easy to misunderstand that something was done to it, right? Well, only the daughter-in-law got scared, though. How did you change the taste of the food? I used the samburi tea you gave me as a souvenir from your summer trip. I brewed it and mixed it into the roast beef and the Christmas dishes. That really bitter tea?
Oh no.
That makes me sound like an accomplice. Even as she said this, my sister laughed amusingly. It was a small act of revenge without any real poison, but I was satisfied. I was able to release the pent-up frustration and start the Christmas feeling refreshed. Well, if Catherine feels refreshed, that's all that matters. Yes, I really do feel refreshed. My sister and I exchanged smiles and reached for the Christmas dishes on the dining table. James and Emily did not return for Easter. Emily said she hates going back home, trembling as she said it. James told me over the phone when they informed me they wouldn't be visiting. Probably because they were too drunk, they didn't remember what happened during Christmas. Mom, Emily is saying nonsense, like you poisoned the food. Must have been a bad dream, right? I think so too. Meanwhile, my husband, who had ordered beer and wine waiting for the arrival of our eldest son and his wife, spent the holiday drinking alone. His slumped back, tilting a wine glass, looked so dejected and lonely. I thought Emily would never come back, but she arrived with James when autumn deepened. She was pregnant, which was good news, but she was suffering from severe morning sickness and needed someone's help. Emily has cut ties with her parents and has no one else to rely on. Mom, can you help us? Although I disliked Emily, this was a different matter. I had severe morning sickness too when I was pregnant with James. As someone who had been through the same, I couldn't refuse to help Emily. Emily arrived at our house in such a bad state that she couldn't even drink water, let alone eat. I quit my part-time job and started to center my life around Emily, accompanying her to the hospital and taking care of her. Catherine, I'm sorry. Emily said to me one day. There's nothing to apologize for, you're having morning sickness. No, it's different. I treated you poorly, like a maid. And yet, you quit your job to take care of me. Emily looked at me with tears in her eyes. Her face showed a look of a daughter relying on her mother. It's okay. It's all in the past now. I said in as gentle a tone as I could, softly touching Emily's cheek.